You're listening to Speaking of Health and Wellness, the podcast, where we dive into holistic nutrition, biomedical treatments, functional medicine, low toxicant living, and developmental strategies with a special focus on children with complex picky eating, developmental delays, and neurodevelopmental disorders. I'm your host, Shandy Laskey, integrative speech-language pathologist, pediatric feeding specialist, functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and epidemic answers certified health coach. Together, we are changing the conversation around how we view, discuss, prevent, and treat these childhood epidemics. I am so honored to have your time and attention today. Thank you for joining me and for all of your support. Please note that this podcast is for educational purposes only and should never be misconstrued as medical advice or a replacement for individualized care from your trusted providers. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. Hello and welcome back to Speaking of Health and Wellness, the podcast. It has been a while. This episode is going to be a different kind of episode for me. Think of it more as a professional and personal update. I'm coming back from a little over 2 years of a content break, and I'm not really sure who will listen to this podcast. I don't really anticipate this being my most listened to episode, but after this long of not having an online presence as an online business owner and coach, and someone who had a pretty active online presence before just sort of dropping off, I felt called to give an update on what I've been up to and what is currently happening behind the scenes with Speaking of Health and Wellness and what's on deck. So thank you for taking the time to listen in today. I know it has been quite some time since I've created content, especially on the podcast. We're going to get into all of that later, but first I wanted to let you know what I am most excited about right now. You may or may not have known that I have been working on an online course called Naturally Navigating Picky Eating for literally years now. I hesitate to share that, but it's true. And I've shared on here about the course Naturally Navigating Picky Eating before, and I've shared also about my ongoing journey navigating perfectionism tendencies. And I know that it's not the only thing that kept this course from coming out for that long. I essentially built the course, decided I didn't like it, and then built it again. And I just wanted it to be the very best that it could be. But there's also this learning curve, right, of the fact that I've never built a course before. And so you have to factor in learning about all the tech aspects and all these new things that I was learning alongside actually building the curriculum and the content, the assets, and all of that for the course. And so I've sort of settled on like, this is a high value course offering, and I'm going to put it out into the world, even if I, in my own opinion, don't feel that it's 100% perfect. The thing is, nothing is, right? The course as it is can get profound results for those who take it and implement the information. So it doesn't need to be the most perfect course production in the world. Like, all those things will just get better and better the more I continue to refine it and work on it. And everyone who joins now will continue to get all of the upgrades moving forward. So anyways, all that to say, I have pushed through a lot of perfectionism in the last however long working on this course. But not only that, so many things. They say that entrepreneurship is one of the greatest lessons in personal development that you can have. And I don't know who is like the originator of that, but whoever said it, they are correct. I love what I do. Do not get me wrong, but there's a lot of personal development that happens behind the scenes here. So anyways, Naturally Navigating Picky Eating is now open for enrollment, and I am so jazzed about it. The day that this episode releases, it's actually the very first day of our first official launch week of Naturally Navigating Picky Eating. So that means that if you enroll today or during this week, if you're listening in real time to this, today is May 13th, Monday, May 13th, and the doors of the launch close at 8 o'clock Central Time this Saturday, which is May 18th. So If you get in to the course before 8 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, May 18th, you will get the launch bonus of 3 live group Q&A calls with me and other students going through the course, other parents going through the course. After the launch closes, you will still be able to get into the course. So if you're listening to this after the fact, don't worry, you can still get into the course. And I haven't worked out all of the details yet, but however the live elements look moving forward, if you enroll in the course when it's not a launch promotion period and you don't get a chance to get those launch bonus calls, during the next launch, I will give you some type of option to sort of opt into whatever that next cohort's live option becomes. Most likely, that is what I'm thinking, but I cannot promise it. But that is what my thoughts are right now. But if you want to get into the course, Naturally Navigating Picky Eating, a self-paced course for parents and caregivers of children with complex picky eating with and without developmental conditions, if you get in this week, you get the 3 live calls with me. After the doors close on Saturday, May 18th at 8 p.m. Central Time, those 3 launch bonuses or launch calls as launch bonuses, they will go away. So if you're interested in checking out Naturally Navigating Picky Eating, you can visit speakingofhealthandwellness.com picky-eating-course. I will also link this in the show notes. But yeah, if complex picky eating is holding your child and family back from being able to enjoy meal times, and especially if you have a kiddo with a developmental condition or some sort of chronic health condition where you're really wanting to use holistic nutrition to optimize their health, picky eating does not need to be an obstacle. That is why I created this. I created this course to give you the framework and the philosophies that I use in my one-on-one parent coaching on a regular basis. And I packaged it into this course framework so that you can help your child eat a nutritionally balanced diet and become more adventurous with food. You'll be able to identify the underlying issues related to your child's complex picky eating, and I'm going to empower you with the strategies and resources to tailor an approach for their needs. I would love to see you inside if that sounds like a good fit for you. If you're not sure if your kid is a complex picky eater, you can always check out episode 4 of season 1 of this podcast, or you can visit my blog titled Picky Eating, What's Developmentally Appropriate and How to Know When It's a More Complex Issue. I will link both of these in the show notes below so that you can check them out and see, like, is my kid a complex picky eater or is this just developmentally appropriate picky eating? I've got resources that clearly define that if you're not sure. If you're pretty sure that your kid is a complex picky eater, but you're not quite sure if the course is for you at this time, no worries. You can start with my free guide, The Do's and Don'ts for Parents of Complex Picky Eaters. You can find that on speakingofhealthandwellness.com/freebies. In other exciting news around here, I have also relaunched my one-on-one distance coaching options for parents, and I've revamped them after working with clients for a handful of years now in Speaking of Health and Wellness. I have now sort of tailored a package or a program, if you will, that I feel best meets the needs of these families that I've been serving. I used to offer different package options, and over time, it just didn't quite feel like it was serving families to the best of what I knew I could offer them. So now I am offering what I call the Initial Support Program, which is a 25-week program of one-on-one distance coaching at the highest level of support that I offer. Or I also am offering single consultation options now, where you can submit your child's food and mood journal to me ahead of time, and I will review it. And then we will get on a call and we will go over what your concerns are with your child and some insights related to the food and mood journal and ways that you can move forward to expand and personalize your child's diet and nutrition, as well as appropriate developmental strategies that are related in lifestyle strategies and all that. So anyways, If that's something that you're interested in learning more about, you can visit speakingofhealthandwellness.com/distance coaching. That's speakingofhealthandwellness.com/distance coaching. Something else that I needed to mention, going back to naturally navigating picky eating. I should have mentioned this before, and you may already see there is another episode available for you to go listen to, which is the start of this week's mini series on the podcast. In coordination with the launch of Naturally Navigating Picky Eating, I am planning a mini series of 5 days on the podcast where I'm giving you some insights, strategies, and action steps for parents of children with complex picky eating. So if that's something that resonates with you, intrigues you, or something that you know that you need, be sure to tune in to the next 5 days of the podcast to listen into that. And again, if you need more guided support, do not hesitate to jump into Naturally Navigating Picky Eating this week so that you can get on those 3 live bonus calls with me. I would love to see you in there if it sounds like a good fit. So let's get into a personal update. Some of you may have followed me on Instagram or Facebook. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I used to be very active on Instagram. And while I appreciate Instagram for what it is, I think it's no secret these days that these social media apps are designed in a way that almost, I mean, I shouldn't even say almost, because they are. I mean, if you watch the documentary Social Dilemma, you'll know exactly where I'm going with this, but I can't quite articulate it. But it's like they make you addicted to it. It's like you just, like you can't ever just walk away from it because it tanks your algorithm. So the more consistent you are, the more rewarded you are. And by rewarded, I mean the more people will see your content. And as an online business owner, that's sort of the name of the game, right? Well, I mean, this was, like I said, I've been off of it for a couple years now. And I have to really gather my thoughts here. Essentially, I realized that I was showing up in a way that was not entirely serving me, my business, or my clients. I didn't see that initially when I first stepped away from it, but I was able to see it with a break. So the biggest news that I have to share with you on a personal standpoint is that I moved across the country, and I knew in late 2021 that I would be moving from Denver, Colorado back to my home state of Michigan in early 2022. And we did. At the end of January, beginning of February, we packed up our vehicles and a big U-Haul, and we drove across the country, and it was quite an adventure. But I said that I would give myself a couple weeks off social media just for the move. And then that 2 weeks, or a couple weeks, just I kept thinking, I don't miss it. I actually feel so much better being off of it. And I was still, business was still going well. I was still getting client referrals, and it just, I don't know, somehow it turned into 2+ years. And what I've learned is that, we can blame the platforms all we want and the way that they were designed and what have you, all of that. But at the end of the day, it's really about how we choose to use the platforms and how we choose to feel about them. And so, yeah, I I have learned a lot. I was burning myself out using it as, I was basically showing up as an influencer, as an activist, and as an entrepreneur and a coach. And it just sort of muddies the water for the algorithm, but also for any of my potential clients, right? And I want to share bits and pieces of my life because I want people to be able to feel like they connect with me on a personal level. And at the time, I was involved in some medical freedom activism in Colorado. And so, well, not exactly at the time, a little bit more so prior to the lead up to this. Um, and so there was almost this part of me that felt like I needed to make some sort of special announcement about my move and like, am I abandoning Colorado? I almost felt guilty, and I've worked through that. And I've sort of landed at a place where, I can advocate and get involved in activism that I am passionate about without having to share so much of it publicly, at least on a page that is supposed to be educating the parents that I want to serve. So I feel like some of you will know exactly what I mean by all of that. And some of you it may not resonate with at all. Um, and that's okay. In hindsight, part of me does wish that I would have at least come back on and said, I'm taking a very extended break. I'm okay. Things are well with me. Don't worry about me. I'll be back someday, maybe. um, but I didn't, in hindsight's 2020. And honestly, like, I don't know. I've seen people post things like that before. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, no one would really have noticed you were gone. Like, do you really need to make that announcement? Like I go back and forth on it. I honestly did have people who ended up reaching out by email or other ways and being like, hey, I noticed that you just stopped posting. Are you okay? So I do appreciate that people noticed, and I am sorry if you were someone who worried about me or my well-being. I am well, and I appreciate your concern. Anyways, in more like, going more positive, here are some exciting things, or the things that have, I don't know, things that I've been up to uh personally, like a little personal update for those of you who care. So, some of you who are following along closely with me, you may know that when we lived in Colorado, we were looking at tiny homes, like tiny houses on wheels. And I'm thrilled and excited to tell you that we bought our first home here in Michigan. It is not a tiny home. It is a very modest size home for us to grow into and have a family and hopefully be our forever home. And we are absolutely in love with it. And I should, for those of you who are in the Midwest or your fellow Michiganders or, whatever, I should specify that not only did we move back to Michigan, my home state of Michigan, but we moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So for those of you who are not aware, there are two peninsulas of Michigan. There's a Lower Peninsula that looks like a mitten. So Michigan is often called the Mitten State, but the mitten is only that Lower Peninsula. Up above the Lower Peninsula is the Upper Peninsula, and it is surrounded by the Great Lakes and, right there bordering Canada. On the map, when you look at it, it's like the land mass is actually the north land mass of Wisconsin. But long story short, it belongs to Michigan. And we moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and it is the wild north. It is remote. It is a totally different Michigan than the Lower Peninsula where I grew up. It is so beautiful, and we often joke. My boyfriend and I often joke that it sometimes feels like the Upper Peninsula. I'm going to also refer to it as the UP. The UP is somewhat back in time in terms of technology and the culture and the vibe. Just sometimes it feels like we're living back in like mid 90s. Not always. And honestly, when I say that, it is not a diss to the UP. I love the UP. It's actually something that I really enjoy about the UP. It's just a very different pace of life here. And I really appreciate that. And it's not to say that all of the UP is like that, certainly not. But there's a lot of old school vibes here. I don't know. So we bought our first home. We are surrounded by nature. It is so good. I I befriended a flock of chickadees. I have been feeding chickadees out of my hand. Yet last summer, I got hummingbirds drinking out of a hummingbird feeder out of my hand. I, like I've been getting really into native flowers as well as medicinal herbs, both culinary and wildcrafted. And the yard at our new home and surrounding area is just, I mean, it would be an herbalist dream come true. My whole yard, I look at it. Some people would look at it as a yard. I look at it like a herb garden because there's so many medicinal plants growing everywhere. And I'm so grateful that the previous owners didn't ever spray the yard. I mean, I can tell that they never sprayed the yard, right? Because it's not, I mean, it is completely wild. Plants that you wouldn't see in a yard that was sprayed. So yeah, so I had my first garden last year. It was a little patio garden. It was great. I had some tomatoes, some peppers. This year I'm getting started now. It's the north, right? So it's not quite time to put gardens in yet. Almost here. But we're not totally out of our last frost yet. So but I did go to the greenhouse and start getting things, but I have to be ready to shuffle them into the garage and take them out and whatever. But anyway, so I'm excited for my second garden. And for those of you who don't know, I previously in Denver, we lived in an apartment complex in the city. And I would get like so excited if I saw a chickadee land on the roof outside of my office. So to be back in Michigan, totally immersed in such a natural area, similar to where I grew up. I guess what I mean by that is I grew up, my parents have a decent amount of acreage, so I grew up in nature. So it is nice to be back in nature, is how I feel. It's been very healing for my nervous system, very resetting, just nature all around. There's always deer or turkeys. Oh, like this past week, oh, not that I should be excited about this. It's like surreal still to me. But we had our first bear on our porch. I should have taken the bird feeder down. It was still up, it was hanging, but you live and you learn. Uh, he hasn't been back, thank goodness. But yeah, there are bears and cougars and coyotes and wolves. Last year we had a wolf, yeah, walk right up through our yard. I didn't see it, but we saw the footprints. I did see a bobcat walk through our yard. That was pretty cool. What else? Oh, a couple other updates. I have been getting acupuncture regularly for over a year now, a little over a year. I've really enjoyed it. That's also been super supportive for my nervous system. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but I found it a lot more profound than I originally anticipated. I'm not sure if you have explored that modality or not, but if you ever were curious about acupuncture, just know that I have found it very supportive for my overall regulation and nervous system. Also, an update. Some of you you may not know that I am part of the nonprofit organization Epidemic Answers and Documenting Hope, or Documenting Hope Epidemic Answers. They're interchangeable, but we're working on rebranding that and sort of consolidating the name. But I have stepped into the role part-time as the Director of Community Development. And I also am the co-founder of the organization's online membership community for parents called Healing Together, along with fellow co-founders, the executive director of the organization, Beth Lambert, and our education and media director, Maria Rickert Hong. For those who don't know about the organization and the research project, Documenting Hope Epidemic Answers is a nonprofit organization on a mission to create a healthier world and future for our children. And the first to scientifically study and document the impacts of the totality of modern living on children's health. You can learn more about the organization and the free resources that are available. There's a ton. Make sure you use the keyword search on epidemicanswers.org. And you can learn more about the children's health research side of things on documentinghope.com. And you can learn more about the online membership for parents called Healing Together at healing.documentinghope.com/register. Also, regardless if you're a parent or a professional, if you haven't seen it yet, Documenting Hope is now, this year we're doing our second conference in Orlando. So this is, if you are into integrative children's health, this is the conference for you. So you can learn more about that at conference.documentinghope.com. I think that is the majority of the updates that I have from you. Those are the highlights of the last couple of years. I know, like, it's not possible to obviously catch you up of the last 2 years, and I don't know that you'd really care. So those are the highlights. And yeah, if you're new to my podcast and or this community, again, welcome. If you're not new and you've been here and you came to see what I've been up to because you genuinely care or you're just genuinely curious, then thank you, truly. It's people like you and that aspect of community that I've really missed during my content break. I'm excited for what's on deck and what's in store. I'm so excited to open up Naturally Navigating Picky Eating and start welcoming in students this week. And if you feel called to join us inside of Naturally Navigating Picky Eating, I hope that you will join this week so that you can make sure that you get those 3 live bonus calls. They're going to be live Q&A calls with me. Once everyone is into the course, I will send out a survey to ask everyone what is the best days and times moving forward, and then we'll get those set up. The deadline in order to get the launch bonus calls, again, that deadline is May 18th, Saturday, at 8:00 Central Standard Time. After that, you can still enroll in the course, but you will not have the access to those 3 live group Q&As. So if that's something that you feel called to do, I would love to see you inside. If not, no big deal, obviously. Check out all of the free resources that I have for you in season 1 of this podcast and also on my website, speakingofhealthandwellness.com. Like I said, you can always grab that free guide. The do's and don'ts for parents of complex picky eaters is on my website as well, speakingofhealthandwellness.com/freebies. I will link all of this in the show notes below, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to Speaking of Health and Wellness, the podcast. I'm so grateful you've taken the time. For any of the references mentioned in the show, head over to speakingofhealthandwellness.com. If this episode resonated with you or inspired you, it would mean so much to me if you took a moment to subscribe, write a review, share it on social media, or with someone in your life who could really benefit from this information. Your support helps this podcast and the overall message and mission of Speaking of Health and Wellness reach more people. If you share on Instagram, tag me so I can personally thank you for listening. If you're on Facebook, come join our free community group of like-minded parents and professionals. The direct link is in the podcast description. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again so much, and take care.